Hey guys, thanks for joining us on the newest episode of Real Estate Talk. I'm with Bruce and Rahim. Today we're going to talk about buy and hold. We're going to talk about the prevalent strategy. We're going to talk about appreciation versus speculation, as well as cash flow. So the first thing we'll jump into is the cash flow, and I will throw it to Bruce.
Okay, well, to me, I have buy and hold properties, and my motivation, I'm looking for as much cash flow as I can. Now, every investor has a different strategy. Some like to say, well, if I can make $100 a month on a buy and hold, I'm happy. If I break even, I'm happy. And they'll make their money on, price appreciation, paying down the mortgage, etc. From my perspective, I think you need to have positive cash flow as much as you can. And on my rentals, there's all single-family homes. We average about $700 per home positive cash flow. So my logic is this: when people say, "Well, I'm happy to make $100 a month," and I'm saying, "Okay, well, I'm making $700 a month," then really you need to buy 7 times as many homes as I do to get to the same point in life. So to me, that doesn't make any sense. So when I'm looking at a buy and hold, I want to make sure I've got positive cash flow, and I'm looking to get as much as I can from that property.
I think positive cash flow is very good, but the appreciation, depending on the market you're at, you can capitalize on that and leverage it too if you're going to be looking at acquiring a second or third property. So I know I've benefited in that sense of making $2,400 because the mortgage is paid off, using that towards the down payment or adding up, and then going to the bank and actually getting a line of credit of 80% of the value to the home if I needed to buy a second property, and then renting that one out as well and let it pay the mortgage down even quicker. So just combining those two.
So my question for both of you guys, and of course we don't have a crystal ball, but does coronavirus change your investment strategy? Because I mean, everybody in London and surrounding area, let's be honest, we've been lucky. It doesn't really, you don't have skill because you've made $100,000 in the last couple of years. You were just lucky enough to own property. So do things change because you don't know? I mean, it seems like the market's picking back up, and it seems like prices just keep going up and up. But do things change when you're not 100% certain? I mean, I know a lot of people that were buying houses a year ago and saying, well, it doesn't matter what I pay today because it's going to be worth $50,000 more in 6 months or a year from now. But now that could be off the table, does the investment strategy change? Because I'll tell you from my own perspective, I am really wondering if you start buying multifamily on that cash flow idea. If I could put $1,000 a month in my own pocket, then the appreciation is just icing on the cake. But no matter what, I have a solid investment.
I think you got to look at it from the individual person, because if you look at the stock market and you look at my portfolio, it dropped almost 40% overnight as soon as coronavirus hit, but yet my real estate didn't drop in value. The market in general in March, slowed down in terms of volume coming on the market, but it never went below, the average sale to listing price in London. And then after 2 weeks, it picked back up, and now we're seeing $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 over asking in the seller's market. So to me, looking at the London market and looking at what's going on in the surrounding, into Toronto, into Windsor, into Sarnia, that gives you a good avenue to predict of. I think real estate's a solid investment.
Yeah. Well, I think it depends on the area, because I know, if you look at CMHC, they're predicting, double-digit price decreases in homes. But, looking at the local market, that doesn't seem to be the case. But then I sort of say, okay, what's driving the London market? It's not like there's new jobs being created in London. So traditionally, it's been people moving from Toronto, investors, retirees. That's what's sort of been, driving the demand in the London market. So is that going to continue? I know for myself, I'm thinking there might be some price reductions coming up. Not immediately, but perhaps in the next 6 to 8 months when people are sort of forced to sell their homes. But we'll see. I don't have the crystal ball either, so I'm as curious as to anybody else how this is all going to play out.
So Bruce, if you look at middle of London with the factory that just went up, that is one of the largest playgrounds or play centers that just went up, and they're putting on a boutique hotel. They just put on the brewery there as well. But then you look at the Maple Leaf food plant coming as well, which is huge. So that is going to drive jobs as well. And then we also got the permits, and it was approved by the City of London for the huge casino coming off the 401. So to me, that's going to draw a lot of people from the surrounding area, and the property values have skyrocketed around those areas. So again, strategy and looking at what City Council is planning and looking at the planning infrastructure of London, it's incredible. That's what I feel, and I feel it is going to go up, but again, it depends on, different perspectives.
Well, I'll tell you personally, my biggest fear right now, we're still in the middle of staring at the news on a daily basis. How many cases of coronavirus, how many people have died? We haven't even talked about how many jobs have actually been lost. What is the true economic impact? I mean, yesterday we saw that it's the biggest stock drop since March, right? So I don't think the real data is in. And I agree, London versus any other city in Ontario, I really do think that London is the best city to invest in right now. But I also wonder what the true economic impact of all of this is, because we're so focused on one thing that nobody's really paying attention to the bigger picture. And I wonder, I mean, really, we've lost 2 million jobs in Canada, right? So we haven't even talked about what that looks like. And even in London, we're a very service-based industry. What if we lose 30 to 50% of our students overnight? Does that mean that we've lost 50% of our serving jobs and our bartender jobs? And what if all these bars can only have a fifth of what they had in terms of people, right? I think there's a big question mark.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I come from a hospitality background, and a lot of the restaurants in town, they weren't making money or breaking even, before COVID. So I envision the situation if you had 50 employees and you're operating a restaurant, you're going to be hiring back 25 employees. If you're in retail and you had 10 employees, you're going to be hiring back 5 employees. So I think there's going to be a lot of unemployment, and people don't understand it yet because they haven't been invited back to work, but they think they're going back to work, and they're going to find out they're not going back to work. So that's just my impressions of it. But it remains to be seen. There's so many factors involved. Like we talk about, even immigration. I think it's 40,000 families approximately per year, immigrate into the Toronto area. Are we going to see some of those families come into London or into Windsor or different towns? So again, I wish I had a crystal ball. I had all the answers, but I think we'll see.
You know what? Absolutely great points that we discussed today. I think that depending on each individual strategy for the investor involved, we can definitely help. Mark, Bruce, or I would love to speak to you guys further. And if buy, hold, and is one of your strategies, we'd absolutely love to help you move forward.
And I'm going to end this on a positive note because of what Bruce said. I do believe that a lot of people will not be called back to their job, but hard times create new adventures. So we will see some new innovations come out of this that will help progress our city as well as our province as well as our country, right? It's the hard times where people are in the garage or their basement and they create a new groundbreaking idea. So that's always an exciting thing too, right? So we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.